Receiving the diagnosis of an incurable condition radically transformed my worldview. Suddenly, the urgency to seek out new and memorable experiences became my top priority. One of those sleepless nights, while browsing the internet, I stumbled upon an unusual site that promised blind dates with hybrids between humans and other species. The idea piqued my deep curiosity, and I decided to seize this unique opportunity. The site had an enigmatic look, with dark purple and black tones, and an interface that seemed straight out of an 80s horror movie. There were strange icons and fonts that mimicked Gothic letters, creating a mysterious atmosphere. The form was extensive, asking for detailed information about my preferences and limits. Questions like, how far are you willing to go for the unknown? And what are your biggest fears? Were part of the questionnaire. I filled everything out with growing curiosity, feeling as if I were about to embark on a surreal adventure. After clicking submit, I tried not to obsess over what might happen next. Hours passed as I tried to distract myself with a movie and some household chores. I washed the dishes, organized my room, and even tried to read a book. But my mind kept drifting back to the anticipation of the meeting. When my phone finally notified me of a new email, my heart raced. I opened the message and discovered the location of the meeting, a square called Magnolia Square, a few kilometers away. The date was set for Wednesday at 11 p.m. The name of the square evoked an atmosphere of mystery and antiquity, heightening my expectation. In the days that followed, anxiety and anticipation alternated within me. I spent most of the time trying to stay calm and mentally prepare for the meeting. I practiced meditation, talked to close friends, and took walks to clear my mind. Finally, on Wednesday, I dressed carefully, choosing comfortable and discreet clothes, suitable for a cold and possibly long night. I put on a grey wool coat, dark pants and boots, ready to face any unexpected events. I left home early, driving through the quiet streets until I reached the square. During the drive, my thoughts were racing. What was I really expecting from this meeting? Was it possible it was just an elaborate hoax? And if it wasn't? These questions circled incessantly in my mind. I arrived at Magnolia Square and parked, greeted by a vision that was both tranquil and unsettling. The square was old, with tall trees casting long, sinuous shadows under the soft glow of the streetlights. A stone fountain in the center of the square silently flowed, while a large oak tree stood majestically beside it. I walked to one of the worn wooden benches near the fountain and sat down, observing every detail around me. The night air was chilly, and the murmur of the water mingled with the occasional rustling of leaves. With each passing minute, my nervousness increased. As I waited, my mind tried to predict who or what would appear for such an unusual meeting. The mix of fear and expectation kept me alert, ready for anything that might come. I imagined a multitude of scenarios, from the fantastic to the bizarre. The square, with its shadows and subtle lighting, seemed like a setting from another world. The mental preparation for that meeting involved more than just expectations. I thought about my deepest fears, how I would face the unknown, and what this experience would mean for my life. At the same time, I tried to control my breathing and stay calm, reminding myself that, regardless of what happened, this was a unique opportunity. Finally, at 11 p.m., I heard light, rhythmic footsteps approaching. My heart raced even more. I stood up slowly, my eyes fixed in the direction of the sounds. The streetlights cast long shadows on the ground, giving the environment an almost surreal air. I watched the few people passing by when I noticed a figure in the distance, moving slowly toward me. The effect of the shadows and lighting created a scene that seemed taken from a noir film. My heart began to beat faster, and my senses became alert. The tall figure stood out in the darkness, moving with an elegance that seemed out of place in that nearly deserted setting. As the figure approached, its features became clearer. It was a tall woman, about 63, dressed in a dark wool coat that fit her perfectly, adding an air of mystery to her presence. She wore leather gloves and boots that seemed prepared for any terrain. Only her face was exposed, revealing striking features and a piercing gaze that seemed to examine every detail of me. "Yes, that's me," I replied, trying to control my anxiety. "And you must be Lila." She smiled, an enigmatic smile that revealed little. "Yes, I am Lila." I hoped the wait wasn't too uncomfortable. Actually, I was more curious than uncomfortable, I confessed. I didn't know exactly what to expect. "That's part of the charm, isn't it?" Lila replied, sitting next to me on the bench. "The anticipation, the unknown. It's what makes life interesting." I agreed, feeling a slight tension in the air. "You seem to have quite a bit of experience with encounters like this." She laughed softly. "Let's say I have some familiarity with the unexpected." "And you, Ethan, what brought you here?" I hesitated for a moment, but decided to be honest. I received a diagnosis of an incurable condition. It made me want to try new things, to live intensely while I still can. Lila looked at me with genuine interest. "I understand. The search for experiences that make us feel alive is something many seek, but few have the courage to follow." Our conversation flowed naturally, alternating between light and deep topics. We talked about movies, music, and even our favorite foods. Lila seemed genuinely interested in every word I said, and gradually I began to feel more at ease. There was something about her presence that was both intimidating and comforting, a paradox I couldn't fully comprehend. Finally, after some time, Lila looked at her watch and said, "I think it's time to go to the next place. I hope you're ready to continue our adventure." I nodded, feeling a mix of anxiety and excitement. "Yes, I'm ready." I stood up, and together we began to walk toward the place Lila had mentioned, my heart beating faster with each step. We arrived at the motel shortly after leaving the square. The place was discreet, with neon lights flickering faintly and an almost empty parking lot, evoking a sense of isolation. I parked the car, and as we got out, Lila and I walked together to the reception. The attendant, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, barely looked up as he handed us the room key. We climbed a narrow staircase, the sound of our steps echoing in the night, increasing the tension we already felt. The room was simple but cozy. There was a large bed with immaculate white sheets, a soft lamp casting a warm glow in the room, and heavy curtains that completely blocked out the outside light. The contrast between the simplicity of the room and Lila's striking presence made the environment almost surreal. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to feel at ease, but the tension inside me grew with each moment. Lila's expression was an enigma. Her eyes shone with a mix of curiosity and something deeper that I couldn't decipher. She walked around the room with firm steps, observing every detail before turning to me. "Relax, Ethan," she said, her voice calm but with an unmistakable authority. "I need to prepare to show you something important. Can you wait a moment?" I nodded, trying to hide my nervousness. "Of course, Lila. I'm curious to know what it is." She smiled, that same enigmatic smile as before, and headed to the bathroom. While she was there, I tried to control my breathing and stay calm. The silence of the room seemed to amplify my thoughts and doubts. What exactly was she going to show me? And why did it require so much preparation? While waiting, I observed the details around, the worn paint on the walls, the distant sound of a car passing by on the road, the faint scent of lavender from the diffuser on the bedside table. Every little detail seemed to heighten the feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. I picked up the TV remote and turned it on, but the sound of late-night shows couldn't drown out the growing anxiety within me. The bathroom door opened slowly, and Lila emerged, now without the overcoat she had worn before. The lamp's light cast dramatic shadows, revealing her true form. The lower half of her body was unmistakably human, but the upper part transformed into something very different. Long, articulated arms covered in greenish skin and exoskeletons ended in sharp extremities. Her face still retained human beauty, but her eyes had a disturbing glow, and delicate antennae emerged from her forehead. My heart raced, and I struggled to control my breathing. It was hard to process the surreal vision before me. "Lila," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You are incredible." She took a step forward, her movements graceful and precise, yet carrying an underlying threat. "This is my true form, Ethan," she said, her voice maintaining that blend of softness and firmness. "I understand if you feel uncomfortable." She approached, and hesitantly, we embraced. I felt the cold, rigid texture of her sharp extremities against my skin, and a wave of repulsion coursed through my body. I fought the instinct to pull away, trying to focus on the person behind the appearance. Our lips met in a kiss, but the sensation of the extremities holding me was hard to ignore. Each touch seemed to accentuate the divide between the human and the monstrous. Lila observed my surprised look for a moment before speaking, her voice soft, but carrying a note of vulnerability. "I can see you're struggling with this," she said, pulling back slightly. "I am, indeed, a predatory creature. Coexisting with humans is complex. There is a real risk for you here." I took a deep breath, trying to grasp the seriousness of her words. "Risk?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What exactly do you mean by that?" Lila approached slowly, and before I could react, I felt her sharp forelimbs wrap around my body. The pressure was firm but not painful. Still, the sensation of her rigid extremities against my skin was alarming. Her face, still human, was close to mine, and her eyes, once merely unsettling, now seemed to consume every detail of my being. "I don't know if I can control myself," Lila confessed, her voice trembling. "There is an impulse in me, a need that I can't ignore. There is a chance that after the act, I won't be able to resist and end up devouring you." My heart raced, panic took over me, and without thinking, I shouted, "Stop! Lila, please, stop!" My words came out in a tone of pure terror, and I could feel the desperation in my own voice. Lila immediately pulled back, her limbs releasing me with a swift, fluid movement. The expression on her face changed to a mix of pain and frustration. She took a few steps back, her body trembling slightly, as if fighting a deep primal urge. "I'm sorry," she murmured, moving further away. "I didn't mean to scare you, but I needed you to know the truth. This is the reality of what I am, and what I can do." The tension in the air was palpable as I tried to catch my breath. Seeing the expression of pain and frustration on Lila's face, I realized she was just as scared as I was. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my mind and racing heart. I took a step forward, reaching out in an attempt to establish a calmer connection. "Lila, sorry for shouting. It was the fear talking," I said, my voice softer now. "I know this isn't easy for you either." She looked at me, her eyes showing a mix of hope and insecurity. "Ethan, I never wanted to scare you. I just wanted to be honest about who I am and what I can be. This is something I've always struggled to control." I moved closer, trying to show that I was no longer afraid. We all have our struggles. I have mine too. Receiving the diagnosis of an incurable disease changed my life in ways I never imagined. Every day is a battle, and I wanted to choose how to live, and eventually, how to die. But today isn't a good day for that. Lila nodded slowly, absorbing my words. "I understand. The search for acceptance is something I know well. I've always seen myself as a freak, someone who doesn't belong anywhere. I want to be accepted for who I am, but I know that's asking too much." "It's not asking too much, Lila," I replied. "Everyone deserves to be accepted for who they are. Life is short and full of uncertainties, and we all just want to find a bit of peace and understanding. I know we have unique challenges, but that doesn't mean we can't try to find a way to live with them." She looked at me with a glimmer of gratitude in her eyes. "You are different, Ethan. Few would have the courage to try to understand what I am. Maybe, together, we can find a way. Even if it's difficult." I felt a wave of compassion for Lila. "Let's try then. I don't promise it will be easy, but if we're willing to understand each other and face our fears together, I think we have a chance." Lila smiled, a timid but genuine smile. "Thank you, Ethan. I couldn't ask for more than that." We sat on the sofa, side by side, talking about our insecurities and challenges. The night progressed, but the sense of connection grew. We were two different beings, fighting against our own demons, but ready to face the unknown together. The night faded as our conversations grew deeper. Lila and I shared stories and confidences, revealing our most intimate fears and our most precious hopes. There was an unexpected connection growing between us, something that transcended our evident differences. Finally, we realized the night was ending. The sky began to lighten with the first signs of dawn. With a sigh, Lila stood up. "I think it's time for us to go," she said, her voice filled with a mix of satisfaction and sadness. "Yes, I think so," I agreed, also standing. "But I don't want this to be the last time we see each other." Lila smiled, that shy smile I was beginning to recognize. "Neither do I, Ethan. It was an unexpected, but good night. I hope we can meet again." I took out my phone and with slightly trembling hands noted down her number. "I'll call you," I promised, putting the phone in my pocket. "I'd like to continue where we left off." She nodded, and after a brief but meaningful hug, we left the motel room and went our separate ways. I watched as Lila walked away, her tall, elegant figure blending into the early morning twilight. On the way home, my emotions were running high. The night's experience made me reflect deeply. I thought about Lila's revelation, her struggle for acceptance, and how it resonated with my own battles. It was strange how two such different beings could have so much in common. I realized the experience gave me a new perspective on life. The desire to live intensely, to experience the unknown, and to find genuine connection with another person became even stronger. Accepting our own vulnerabilities and having the courage to face our fears were essential to finding peace and meaning. As I entered my house, I felt a mix of exhaustion and renewal. The night with Lila was a powerful reminder that even in the scariest and most unexpected moments, there are opportunities for growth and understanding. I sat down in the armchair, still immersed in the memories of the night, and smiled as I thought about what the future might hold.